Okay, so welcome back. In this video, we will discuss about Next.js 13 and all the features of Next.js 13 with the help of some examples. So without wasting our time, let's start the video. So I am on the official blog of Next.js, so nextjs.org/blog/next13. So here we can find all the new features that are introduced in Next.js 13. So first of all, you can see that these are some major features here, and the most important is this app directory. So we will follow through this article. Okay, so let's create a new Next project and let's understand with the help of some examples. So I go back to my VS Code and here I have to start a new project. So I simply type here npx create dash next dash app and I type here add latest, and then I type here dot because I am in Next 13 folder, so it will give Next 13 as the name to this project. So I press enter here. So it will ask me, would you like to use TypeScript with this project? I type here no for this project and also no here, and let's wait for this to complete. Okay, so our project is created successfully here. Now let's type here npm run dev, and I simply open my next project here like this. Okay, so this is the basic project. And now first of all we will discuss about this app directory. Okay, so I go back and in the root folder I create a new folder that is called app. And now to use this app directory I simply go to my next.config.js, and here I will simply type experimental, and in that I type here app directory to true. So now it will use this app directory in this project. Okay, so if I create a new let me restart my server. So now if I create here in the app a new file that is called page.js, and I create here a basic functional component, I type here home page, and you can see that we get here error that conflicting app page file was found, please remove the conflicting files to continue, because this page.js is conflicting with this index.js. Okay, because this index.js also goes to the home page and this page.js also go to the home page, so we have to delete one file. So in this video we need to focus on the app directory. So I will delete this index.js from here, move to trash, and now if I simply save it and go back to my Chrome, and if I reload this page, you will see that we get here our home page, which is from the app directory. Okay, so in this way we simply have to type here experimental app directory to true, and then we need to in the app directory we need to create our page.js in which we can type our code, and you can see that the layout head.js is automatically created by Next here. Okay, so you can see this message, your app slash page.js did not have a root layout. We created layout.js and head.js for you. Before Next.js 13 we actually have to create the layout manually and have to manage that, but in Next.js 13 Next provides the layout out of the box. So in this layout.js we can define all the layout of our project. Okay, so in this case this is a simple root layout in which we have the HTML head tag, and the body we are simply passing our children that we get from the prop. Okay, so children is basically the component that we are rendering. And then in the head.js we can simply define our title, and also we can add here different links like bootstrap. For example, here I type eCommerce app, and let's add here bootstrap link. So I simply type here link, and in that I have to pass the CDN link, so I copy that, I put the CDN link here for the bootstrap, and also I have to type here precedence, and I have to type here default. And now if I press here Command S and I go back, I can see here the font is changed here. Okay, so bootstrap is successfully added in our project. Okay, so this is our head component in which we can write our title, we can add different links and all that stuff that we can do in the head. And the layout, we can define the layout of our project like this. Okay, so let's actually first of all create our header component and add that in the layout. So in the app I create a new file that is header.js, I create the basic component, functional component, and let's keep it simple. I type here nav, and in the nav I give a class name navbar, which is the bootstrap class. Navbar, let's call it navbar light, and here I will use here the link component from the next slash link, and in that I type here href, that is slash, and I type here online shop like this. Okay, so now I go back to my layout.js, and here in the body I will add my header because I want to display header on all the routes. So I type here uh, header like this. Simply save this one, and now if I go back to my Chrome, and you can see that we have here our header, and I can also actually type here bg light. Okay, so this is our basic nav bar. Okay, definitely we are not going to focus on the UI in this video. We will only discuss about the core functionalities of Next 13. Okay, so in this way we can add the header in our layout. Okay, so I simply close this one, and now this is our layout, this is our head.js, and this is our page.js, which is in the root of the app directly, which will represent the slash. Okay, and now I want to create a route that is slash products, and on that page I want to display all the products that we get from our fake API. Okay, so how we can do that? I will simply in the app folder create a new folder with the name of the resource, in this case that is products. So I type here products. Okay, and now to create localhost port 3000 / products, in this product folder I have to create a new file that is page.js. Okay, and now in this page.js I can write all my code related to the products. Okay, so I create here a basic functional component, and I call it like products page. If I simply save it and go back to my Chrome and I type here slash products, so you can see that we get here a products page. So now let's actually display all the products from this fake store API, and let's display all these products on our slash products page. So I simply go back to my VS Code, and I can simply actually now I want to tell you that by default all the components in the app directory are the server components. Okay, so we can also make that client side components, but by default all the components are server components, and we will discuss about the server components and client components in a minute. So first of all I need to get all the products from our API. So for that I'm not going to use here get server side props, because now we can simply fetch data by just calling the function in the server components. So I can simply type here async function get products. Okay, and then I will simply type here const res is equal to await. I use here fetch API, and I pass here the URL. So I go back and copy this, copy that, and I put that here. Okay, and let's put here a limit to 6. I only want to get 6 products from this fake API, and then I will simply type here const products is equal to await res.json, and I will simply return from here the products. And to call that I will simply make this function async, and I call that here. So const products is equal to await get products. Okay, and now let's log our products here like this. Now I simply press here command S and go back to my here. If I go to the console here, you can see that we get here nothing, because again these are the server components. So we get our results on the console of the server right here. Okay, so these are all the products that we are getting from this fake API. Okay, so now we have to loop through all these products and display them on the page. So I will actually copy the code just to save some time, because this is pretty simple code. So I will simply copy that and I will explain that, and I put that here. So here you can see that we are simply first of all have a section that has style of background color this, then we're using this container class which is the bootstrap class, and then the row, and then we are mapping through this product. Okay, then for each product we are passing this key to this div tag that contains this column, column medium 12, column large 4, just bootstrap classes, and in that we are simply just displaying the image. We have to use here the image from the next/image, so I import that, import image from next/image. Okay, so we will use here image tag, sorry, image component, pass in the source which is product.image, and then the height, width, and the alt text, and then we will simply display here the product category, product ID, title, and price. And for the link, I have used here this link component from the next/link, so I use here import link from next/link. Okay, simply save this one, and now if I go back and if I simply reload it, so we have to actually add this fake store.com in the images array of the uh, next.config.js. So I open this one and I type here images, and then in the images I have to pass here the domains. So in the case I am using the images from this API which is fake store.com. Simply save it and restart the server. And now if I go back to my Chrome and reload this page, and you can see that we are getting all the products, 6 products from our API. And now this is very simple UI. The purpose of this video is just to show you the functionality of Next.js 13. You can definitely improve the UI if you want. Okay, so these are the 6 products that we are getting from this fake API. Okay, again we are simply just mapping through all the products, and for each product we are displaying this div tag that contains this image, and then the just title, ID, and the category and price of that product. Okay, and now we know that whenever we fetch data from a server or from any API, it takes some time to get that data. Okay, so before Next.js 13 we used to maintain a variable called loading, and when we usually send the request we make loading to true, and once data is fetched we make loading to false, and until that point we used to display the loader component or simple loading text. But now in Next.js 13 we don't have to actually maintain that loading. Next.js automatically done that for us. We simply have to just create a loading component. So if I go to my Chrome and let me open here, and here on the documentation you can see that we have here loading UI. So Next.js 13 has introduced this loading.js that will automatically handle that loading part for us. Okay, so we can simply create a loading.js in any at a root level, or also we can create that at the component level. Okay, we simply have to get a loading.js or loading.tsx file for TypeScript and pass our loading code in that, and it will automatically display that loader while our data is loading. Let me show you how it will work. I simply go back and at the root of the app I create a new file that is called loading.js, and then here I create a basic functional component that is .js. Oops, that is okay, so that is the loading component, and in that I will simply give it a class of bootstrap. Let's call it d-flex, and then justify content center, and then I will type here margin top of 5, and then I type here h1 that contains this loading. Simply save it, and now if I go back and here, now if I reload it you will see this loading text. If I reload this page you can see that we are getting here this loading like this, and now we no longer have to maintain that loading variable. Next.js automatically does that for us. We simply have to create a loading.js and it will automatically handles that loading part. So in this way we can use this loading.js. Okay, so now if I click on this, I need to go to this slash product slash the ID of that product and display the details of that product. Okay, so let's handle this route. So I simply go back to my VS Code, and now this is a nested route. So I simply first of all close this one, and this one. Now in this products folder, I need to create a dynamic route that will handle the ID of that product. Okay, so I will create a new folder here with the ID, because we have to pass the ID of the product in the basically params. So in that folder, I create a new file that is page.js. Okay, so in this page.js, we have to display the details of that product. So I will create a functional component here. I call it um, product details page, like this. Okay, if I simply save it, and now if I go back to my Chrome and reload this page, you will see that we get here our product details page. Okay, so now let's actually go back, and I will create a new component in this ID with the name product details.js. Okay, so in this I will write my code. First of all, we need to get the product by the ID from the API. So I will simply type here an async function. So async function, I will call it get product details, and in it I have to pass the ID of that product. Okay, so I will simply type here try catch block, and just log here the error. Okay, now here I will simply send the request. So fetch, and I have to pass in here the URL. So in that case, I will simply copy from here, and I put that here, and then I have to pass the ID of that product. I'll simply type here slash and then pass the ID. Then I will simply type here const product is equal to await res.json, and then I will simply return from here the product. Okay, then I will call here const product is equal to await get product details, and in that we have to pass the ID of that product. So I will simply type here params.id, and we can get the params from here, and we actually have to also pass the params right here. So I will simply type here product details. Okay, in that I have to pass the params. So I simply type here params, and we can get the params from here. Okay, so we can get access to the params from the props like this. Then we will pass it in the product details, and then we can use these params to get the ID of that product. Now I'll simply log here the product. Simply save this one, and we have to also make this function async. Okay, so now you can see that we are getting the detail of that product. In this case the ID is 1, so we get here our first product. Okay, so let's display that product on the here. So I will just give it a class name of container, and then row, and then margin top of 5. In that I will create here a class with the div with the class of column dash 5, because I want to give only 5 columns, and then I will display here the image of that product. So I will get the image from next/image. Okay, and in that I will simply type here the source, that is going to be product dot image, and then I have to pass here the class name. So I use here bootstrap class name. I type here card dash image dash top, and then let's type here padding of 5 on all sides, and then I will simply give here height of 400, and I give here width let's give here 100, and for the alt I use here the product dot title. Okay, and then I have to pass in the details of other. If I go back, you can see that we get here our image. Now let's display all the details of the product right here. So here I will simply type div column of 6 and then margin top of 5, and in that I will simply type here h2 with the class name of margin top and bottom of 4. I type here product dot title. In the same way I will display here product dot category and then the product dot price. We also display here the dollar sign, and let's change it to h6 and let's change this to h3. Okay, simply save it, and now if I go back you will see that we get here the product details. Now let's also add one link here to go back to the all products. So I will use here I will type div, let's give it margin top of 5, and then here I will use the link from next slash link, and I type here href, that is going to be slash products, and the text is going to be go back. And also the link component is also updated in Next. If I go back and if I click here, here you can see that before Next 13 we had to actually wrap our a tag in with the link component, but now we no longer need this a tag. We can simply type our text as it is inside the link component like this. Now we can use this syntax for the link component. Okay, so this is also updated, and now we have successfully displayed all the product details on our page like this. And now before moving on, let's actually first of all handle our 404 error. If user pass here invalid id, if I type here something like this, you can see that loading is here, and now it will throw the error because there is no product with this id. And you can see that here we get this error that cannot read property undefined of this. Okay, so we have to handle that. And now for that I can simply use the new not found method that is given us by the Next. So to use that I will simply import that not found from next slash navigation, and now here we can simply import that not found. Okay, so I can simply type here that if there is no product then simply return the not found. So it will simply return the not found page. If I simply save it, and now if I go back, and now you can see that we get here our 404 page, which is the default page by Next.js. You can also override this, and to override that I simply go to my here in the id and this id folder, create a new file that is not-found.js. okay, so in that I can write all the UI. If you want to display some image, some text, you can write that here. I will simply type here first of all not found, and let's give here h1. I type here product not found, and let's give it a class name of display flex, and justify content dash center and margin top of 5. Simply save it, and now if I go back you will see that we get here our product not found. You can definitely write more CSS and styling for that, but in this way you can handle the 404 pages on your project. Okay, that is display flex. Okay, so now it is here. Okay, so in this way you can handle our 404 errors. And now let's first of all discuss about the nested layouts. We know that we have created a layout at the root level right here. We can also create the layouts for individual route. Okay, so that are called nested layouts. So how we can do that? We can simply actually let me copy that here. Simply copy this layout, close that, and in the app, in the products, now in here we have to create our nested layout. So create a new file, that is layout.js. I paste it here. I don't need here head like this. Let's actually type here div with the class name of, actually I can copy that from here. Okay, so in that I will create a alert dash success. In that I will simply type here h2. I type here nested layout. Okay, and now if I simply save it, and we can call it like details layout, and also we have to render this children. So after let's actually type here a div, and here I will simply type here div, and I pass in here the children. Simply save this one, and now if I go back, you will see that we get here our nested layout. And in this way you can display the nested layouts. Now that depends on your project and how you want to display that. So if you want to use some nested layouts inside any particular route, you can simply use that in this way. Okay, so now let's discuss about the error. If I go to any file here, I can simply let's go to here products and page.js. Let's throw here some error. So I type here throw new error, and I type here test error. If I simply save it and I go back to here on this products page, you can see that we get here this error with the test error message. Now we want to display a proper error page to the user, and how we can do that? We can simply use this error.js file that is provided by Next.js 13. Okay, so how we can do that? I simply go back, and um, I will simply here in the app root, I will get a new file that is called error.js. And now here I will simply export here, export default function, let's call it error, and in that we can access the error message. Okay, so I simply type here return, and I simply type here something went wrong. Okay, and then let's display. I use here use effect. You can also find this code on the documentation, and I will simply type here error, and when the component mounts I will simply log the error. Okay, simply save it, and now if I go back, if I reload this page, now you can see that we get here an error message that we have to use this component as a client-side component, not as a server component. I have told you before that by default all the components in the app directory are server components. Okay, so in this case we cannot use the server component for this file. We have to make it client-side component, and we can make that by using this use client. And I will tell you when we have to use the client components and server components in a minute. Before that I will simply copy this from here, and now we can simply put that on the top of this file. I type here this use client. So now this is the client side component. Simply save this one, and now if I go back, you can see that we get here our proper error message that error something went wrong. So this is what the user will see inside of that error message. Okay, so in this way we can create also error.js and display the errors according to our format or requirements. Okay, So now let's discuss that when we need to use the client side components and when we need to use the server side components. So you can see that I am on the documentation of Next.js. So this is our server and client components. So you can see that here that all components inside the app directory are React server components by default. Okay, so all the components by default are the server components. And why they are server components? Because the server components will definitely increase the speed of our application. Okay, so it will increase the overall performance and it will do all the processing on the server side, and at the end it will increase and improve the performance of our application. So that's why server components are really useful. Okay, so now when we have to use the client side components and when we have to use the server components. So again, by you can use this use client to make any component client side component. Okay, so this is when to use server versus client components. First of all, when we are simply fetching the data, we can simply use the server components. In this case, here we are simply fetching the data, so that's why we simply use here the server components. Okay, and when we only want to access the backend resources directly, we can simply use the server components. When we have to keep data sensitive, we can simply use server components. When we want to keep our large dependency on the server side, we can simply use the server components, and that will definitely increase the performance of the website when we do all the processing and the keep large dependencies on the server side. And when to use client side components, when we want to interact with the different elements, like we want to use on click on change. Okay, so in that case we have to use the use client, otherwise you will get the error. And also when we want to use the use state, use reducer, use effect, any hooks, okay, we have to use the use client. You can see that here we have used the use effect and we got the error that we have to make this client side component. So whenever we want to use that, we have to make it client side component. When we only want to use the browser only APIs, when we want to use some custom hooks, we have to use the client components. So in this way we can simply differentiate when we have to use these server components and we have to use the client components. Okay, so I hope that you understand. So this is the basic difference between the server components and client components. Okay, so now if I go back, we have discussed about the layouts, nested layouts. We have discussed about the React server components, and we have also used that, and we also have learned that what is difference between the React server components and client components and when to use them. We have also used this image link, and now at the end we have here the streaming. So let's see how we can use the streaming to improve the performance of the website. If I click on here, so in simple words, streaming means that when we have a page and we are loading two different resources like products and the comments of that products. Okay, so we can display different loading for the product and different loading for the comments, and it will increase the user experience. And we are displaying the loading on specific part of the page, not on all the page. Okay, so let's see how we can use that. If I go to here, learn more about streaming, I hope I can get that here. This is streaming and suspense. Okay, so I go to here and this is where we can use that. Here is the example. For example, we are loading post feeds and we are loading the weather, which are two different resources. So we can simply use this suspense from React to keep them separate, and it will display this loading feed only while these are loading, and display this loading weather while this weather is loading. Okay, so let's see how we can use that in our project. So here, let me first of all comment out this line. Let me save it, and now if I reload this page, and now if I go to this product, I also want to display here the comments of this product, and to display the comments I will use this fake this JSON placeholder API / comments that will give me a list of all the comments. Okay, so let's use that. So I go back and I close this one and this one, and in here I create a new file that is comments.js, create a functional component here, and I will simply get here my data function get comments and await fetch, and in that I have to pass this. I put that here, and then const comments that are going to be await res.json. Then we will simply return from here the comments. Okay, and I get here const comments await get comments, and then I need to loop through here. So I simply give here class name, let's call it margin top of 5, and let's type here h1 and give class name of margin top and bottom of 5, and type here comments, and then I will loop here. So comments dot map through all the comments, and for each each comment I will simply display here comment dot name. Okay, so this is a simple component. Simply save this one, and now here in the page.js I will import that. So I will quickly format that. I will simply use here this comments. Okay, so now if I simply save it, I go back, and we have to use here async. Let's make it async. Simply save this one, and now if I go back and reload this page, you can see that we get here all the comments and the product. Okay, so now let's use this streaming to make it more user friendly. This one. Okay, so we will import this suspense from the React. So I go back and I will import the suspense, and I will simply type here suspense. Okay, and then here I type here fallback, and in the fallback you can also pass your component if you have loading component, but now I will simply pass here a p tag that contains I type here loading products. Okay, and then in the suspense I will pass here first of all the product details, then I copy this one and I put that here, and put my comments in the second suspense. I type here loading comments. Simply save it, and now if I go back and let's see the behavior of our application. Okay, so now if I reload this, you consider loading products and then loading comments. The comments are loaded first and then the products are loaded. So in this way we can simply display different loading signs for different resources. Again, if I reload it, so comments are loaded first and then the product is loaded. So in this way we can use this suspense to increase the user experience more, like this. Okay, so I hope that you understand what we have discussed in this video. We have discussed all about this article. We have discussed about the layouts. We have understand the nested layouts and we can use that. And we have discussed about the app directory. Then we have learned about the React server components. By default, all the components in the app directory are server components, and we can make any component client component also by using use client. And we also have learned that when to use server components and when to use the client components. And also we have discussed about the streaming and the next/image and next/link. Okay, so I hope that you understand. If you have any question, make sure to post your question in the comment section. I will try my best to respond there. And also if you want to check out my courses on Udemy, also the link is in the description of this video. And let me know if you want more videos about Next.js 13. I will create more videos, or maybe create a complete project in Next.js 13. Okay, Also find the Git repo link for this project, for this example code in the description of this video also. I hope that you understand what we have discussed in this video. So I will see you in the next video.